Let me ask you a question. Who are you? Think about it for a minute. No, really, right now. What's the first answer that comes to your mind? Did you say, I'm a project manager, I'm a teacher, I'm an engineer, I'm an entrepreneur? Well, that's really interesting. You still didn't answer my question. You answered a different question. I didn't ask, what do you do? I asked, who are you? And the reason so many people struggle with that question is because we spend our entire lives building a title instead of building an identity. Maybe that's why losing a job can feel like losing yourself, not because you lost your income, not because you lost your routine, but because you lost the answer to that question. Who are you? Imagine you finally found a career that you feel like was exactly where you were supposed to be. You tried different paths before, but when you found this one, something just clicked. You knew it without a doubt. This was what you were meant to do. Therefore, you gave it everything you got. You put everything on the table. Where other people saw problems, you saw opportunities. When your manager asked, who wants to take this on? Your hand was the first to go up, not because you were trying to prove something to everyone else, but because you wanted to prove something to yourself. You were curious about what you can learn, curious about what you're capable of, curious about whether you could lead something you had never led before. Then one day, your manager asks if you have a few minutes to talk. You walk into the office, something feels different. The conversation doesn't begin with the way it normally does. The tone feels heavier. The posture feels different. For a moment, you tell yourself, maybe I'm just overthinking this. But then you hear those words. Due to budget cuts, we've made the difficult decision to eliminate your position. This has something to do with your performance. We're simply moving in a different direction. In that moment, it feels like time just slowed down. You hear the words, but they don't really fully register. It's almost as if your heart, it just dropped in your lap. Therefore, your mind immediately starts searching for answers. What could I have done differently? Was I really good enough? What am I supposed to do now? And without even realizing it, you begin grieving something much deeper than a paycheck. You begin grieving the identity you built around your title. I know that feeling because this wasn't a hypothetical story. It actually happened to me years ago. I sat in that very chair listening to those very kind of words. And here's the part that hurt the most. I was actually training the very people who eventually replaced me. Mm, yeah, that hurt. For a long time, I thought that was the deepest wound. But looking back, realized that wasn't what hurt the most. What hurt the most was believing that if I wasn't a project manager anymore, then who was I? It wasn't until much later, after stepping into new opportunities, even making decisions to begin reselling on platforms like eBay and whatnot, that something unexpected happened. People probably thought I was changing careers. I didn't see it that way. For the first time in my life, I realized project management had never defined me. It was simply one way I expressed who I already was. Whether I'm leading a enterprise transformation, teaching, coaching, writing books, or even speaking on stage, or even just selling on platforms, I'm still doing the same thing. I'm solving problems. I'm creating value. I'm building relationships. I'm learning, leading, and expressing change. The identity didn't. And the realization set me free like a bird. Here's the reflection, family. I know you may be sitting there thinking, well, ED, if my job doesn't define me, then what does? Well, I think that is a very fair question because from the time we were children, one of the first questions people will ask us is, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? Think about that for a moment. Not what do you want to become, but what do you want to be? So we spend years chasing titles: doctor, teacher, engineer, project manager, business owner, executive. And there is nothing wrong with having those goals. There's nothing wrong with loving what you do. I know I love this thing that I hope you fall in love with called project management. But the problem begins when we stop seeing our career as something we do and start believing it is something we are. Because if your identity is built on a title, every transition becomes an identity crisis. Promotion changes it, a layoff changes it, a retirement changes it, starting a business changes it, selling a business changes it. Life has a way of changing every title we'll ever hold, which means if we're going to build a life that isn't shaken every time life changes, we have to build our identity on something deeper. Maybe you're wondering, so if my title isn't who I am, then who am I? Principle number one, your identity is bigger than your title. Somewhere along the way, many of us stopped introducing ourselves by our values and started introducing ourselves by our profession. Ooh, think about it for a minute. When someone asks you, tell me about yourself, how many of us immediately begin with our jobs? Oh, I'm a project manager. Oh, I'm a nurse. I'm a teacher. I'm an accountant. There's nothing wrong, again, of what you love doing. It gave me opportunities of being a project manager that I never imagined. It challenged me. It stretched me. It helped me become a better leader. Then one day I realized something. Project management wasn't creating my identity. It was revealing it. My curiosity, my desire to solve problems, my love for helping people, my passion for continuous learning, those things existed long before I ever carried the title of project manager. The title simply gave them a place to show up. That's why titles are wonderful servants. Ooh, I like that, family. But it's terrible masters. I'll say that again. That's why titles are wonderful servants, but they are terrible masters. Because the moment your identity becomes a dependent on a title, you give the title the power to define your worth. Here's the lesson. Your title describes what you do. It should never define who you are. Here's 2 actual tips I'd love for you to experiment with. First, the next time someone asks you, what do you do? Answer the question. But before you do, ask yourself, how would I introduce myself if I couldn't mention my profession? You might discover parts of yourself you overlooked for years. Second, take 10 minutes this week and write down 5 qualities that would still be true about you if your job disappeared tomorrow. Maybe it's your integrity. Maybe it's your curiosity, your devotion, your compassion, your willingness to learn. See, all of these qualities are much closer to your identity than any title you'll ever hold. Here's my professional advice. One thing I've learned after leading projects, coaching professionals, mentoring inspiring leaders is this. Organizations hire your experience, but people trust your character. Your resume may open the door. Your identity determines what happens when you actually walk through the door. Which naturally leads me to another question. If your identity is bigger than our title, then what happens when life changes that title? Because whether it's a promotion, a career change, retirement, or even layoff, life has a way of changing the names of our business cards. Maybe you're wondering, if my title changed, what is it that no one can ever take away from me? That's the question I wish someone asked me years ago. I used to think my answer would be education, my certification, or even my job. I believe that if I worked hard enough, earned enough credentials, improved myself often enough, I'll finally become secure. But what I've learned is this. I think many of us spend so much time protecting our title that we forgot to develop the person who carries it. I will say that one more time, that we spend so much time protecting our title that we forgot to develop the person who carries it. Principle number 2, titles can change or even be taken. Character cannot. Oh, this is getting good to me, family. Think about how much time we spend building our careers. We update our resumes, earn another certification, work towards another promotion, learn another skill. None of these things are wrong. In fact, I encourage continuous learning. But here's what I've learned along the way. A resume tells people what you've done. Character tells people who you are. One gets you the interview, the other one earns you trust. Life has a way of changing every title we've ever held. Sometimes we choose to change. Sometimes the change actually chooses us. A promotion changes your title. A career pivot changes your title. A retirement changes your title. A layoff, well, you guessed it, it changes your title. But none of these moments have the power to change your integrity, your curiosity, your devotion, or your willingness to serve others. Those are qualities you carry with you wherever you go. That's not owned by an organization. That's owned by you. Here's a lesson, family. Titles can be given, changed, or taken away. Character cannot. That's why the strongest investment you'll ever make isn't just an education, certification, or career. It's becoming the kind of person who carries every title with humility, integrity, curiosity, and devotion. Because at the end of the day, people may remember your position, but they'll never forget your character. Here's 2 actionable tips I'd love for you to experiment with. Write down 3 qualities that no employer, organization, client, or circumstances can take away from you. Then ask yourself, am I spending as much time developing these qualities as I spend developing my resume. Because one day your resume may open the door, but your character will determine whether people invite you back. Second, the next time life changes one of your roles, ask yourself a couple questions. What did I lose? No. Instead, ask, what did I keep? That one question shifts your focus from loss to ownership. Here's my professional advice. One thing I've learned throughout my career is that organizations don't just remember what you've accomplished. They remember who you were while accomplishing. Projects get completed, strategies change, systems get replaced, titles come and go, but your reputation for integrity, your willingness to serve people, the way you respond when life doesn't go according to plan, those are the things that continue to open doors long after the business card has changed. Maybe that's why most of the successful people I've met aren't obsessed with protecting a title. They are devoted to becoming the kind of person who can carry any title life places in their hands. So maybe you're wondering, if my title doesn't define me and my character is what I carry, then what should I be focused on becoming? I think that's an excellent question that changes everything, because for most of my career, I thought success meant collecting bigger titles, a bigger role, more responsibility, another certification, another accomplishment, another milestone. But somewhere along the way, I realized I've been measuring my growth by what I was carrying instead of who was actually carrying it. Principle number 3, become the person who carries the title. One of the greatest shifts in my life happened when I stopped asking, what title do I want next? And started asking, who do I want to become? That one question changed everything, because whether I'm leading an enterprise project, coaching someone into their first project management role, writing a book, speaking on stage, or getting back into reselling online, I'm still the same person. I'm still solving problems. I'm still creating value. I'm still building relationship. I'm still learning. I'm still leading. The expression changes, the identity doesn't. And that's when I finally understood. Freedom isn't found in the perfect career. Freedom comes from becoming the kind of person who can create value in any season of life. Here's the lesson, family, I want you to think about. Don't spend your life chasing the next title. Spend your life becoming the kind of person worthy of carrying whatever title comes next. Careers will change. Markets will change. Opportunities will come and go. But the person you become will determine how you respond to every one of them. Build a person first. Every title that follows becomes an opportunity to express who you already are. Experiment with these 2 actionable tips. First, instead of asking yourself, what do I want to do next? Try asking yourself this: who do I want to become next? Notice how different those 2 questions feel. One is focused on position, the other is focused on transformation. Second, choose one character trait to intentionally develop over the next 30 days. Maybe it's patience, maybe it's integrity, courage, humility, devotion, or curiosity. Invest in that trait every day, because long after people forget your title, they will remember the kind of person you were. Here's my professional advice. One thing I've learned after more than a decade of leading projects, coaching professionals, and navigating unexpected seasons is this: technical skills may get you noticed. Character keeps you trusted. Experience may create opportunities, but the person you become determines what you do with them. Never stop investing in your education. Never stop earning certification, and never stop growing professionally. Just make sure you're growing personally at the same time, because one day the person carrying the title will matter more than the title they're carrying. And maybe that's what the scoreboard has been measuring all along. Not the title you held, but the person you were becoming while you held it. Here's the final reflection, family. So let me ask you that question I asked you earlier. Who are you? Not what you do, not what title you hold, not how many degrees you have, or how many certifications you have hanging on your wall. But who are you? Because one day your title will change. Maybe you'll get promoted. Maybe you'll retire. Maybe you'll start a business. Maybe you'll change careers, or maybe you'll get laid off. Or matter of fact, maybe life will simply take you in a direction you never expected. When that day arrives, your title may disappear, but your character doesn't. Your integrity doesn't. Your devotion doesn't. Your willingness to learn doesn't. The way you love people, serve people, and create value doesn't. And maybe that's what the scoreboard has been measuring all along. Not your position, not your salary, not your resume, but the person you were becoming while you carried every title life entrusted to you. That's why I call this the scoreboard principle, because scoreboard has never argued with anyone. It has simply revealed what we've repeatedly become. So don't spend so much time building your resume that you forgot to build the person who carries it. Because when the title is gone, the person you've become will still be there. Here's my closing thoughts, family. If this conversation challenged the way you've been thinking, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who might be struggling with their own identity, their career, or they're in a season of transition. And if you don't remember anything else from today's episode, I ask that you remember this. Don't build your identity around a title. Build the kind of character that can carry any title life places on your hands. By the way, welcome to the Project Management Lab, where project managers are built. And remember, sets and reps beat talent when talent doesn't do the reps. If you're new to the episode, I go by the name of ED. For all you smart and intelligent folks out there, hey, listen, that just simply means Ed. Until next time.